6:32. So I'm going to read us in and assume she will get started. All right. Good evening, all. Welcome to the March 20th, 2023 regular meeting of the Town of Easton Planning and Zoning Board. In keeping with an act relative to extending certain state of emergency accommodations, this meeting will be conducted remotely over Zoom. Attendance by board members will be remote, and remote attendance shall count towards quorum. This meeting will be broadcast live and recorded on ECAT. To use Zoom, follow the link on the agenda, which can be found on the calendar of the front page of the town's website. While board members and applicants will be on video and audio, public participants will join the webinar as an attendee, meaning they are muted with no video feed from them. During the public testimony portion of the meeting, members of the public can be recognized by using the raised hand function or the Q&A function on Zoom. If joining by phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand. Board members are asked to announce themselves by name when making a motion and second, so it will be clear to the audience and minute takers who made the motion. All votes will be by roll call. To ensure we have a quorum, we will now have our first roll call of the night. Gregory Strange, present. Amos Kedem.
Present.
Peter Deshane.
There's Deb.
Present.
Robert Stetson.
Present.
And I see Deb has joined us. I'll wait a minute here.
Stephanie, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yep.
And
Okay.
Deborah Balseric. So
Here.
Deborah, just doing roll call. Deborah Balseric.
Here.
Great. All right.
Right.
We have a full board quorum.
Greg, I think I have everyone for the first item.
Yeah, our first item is a site plan review for 661 Washington Street. And who's ever presenting, if you want to just give your name and address for the record, and then just let us know if there's anyone else that Stephanie needs to load in.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. Board members, Scott Farrier from Holmgren Engineering, representing Matthew Realty for a project at 661 Washington Street. I have along with me Dave Siebert from BKA Architects, attorney Walter Marioni, and Adam Silverleaf, who is the project proponent. I think just to get things moving, Mr. Chairman, I'll just do a quick review and then maybe hand it off to Adam. He can let you know about his company, and then we can.
Sure. If I could just, Scott, just for a second, I just want to jump in. I know
Sure.
we may have some folks in the audience tonight that want to participate. They may not be familiar with our process. So the applicant and his team will present their project. We will then go around the board members who will have any questions or comments, along with the director of planning. And once that's set, then I will open the floor to the public for any questions or comments. And I would ask that you all keep it civil and provide your name and address for the record. So with that, go ahead, Mr. Ferry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, what we have is a proposal for a 17,000 square foot Volkswagen dealership at 661 Washington Street, the site of Correa's Plaza. As you all know, the site of a mostly vacant commercial plaza. Also on Depot Street, along with our property, is a home at 123 Depot Street that will be raised along with the 661 Washington Street building for the construction of this site. We have, as I said, 17,000 square foot dealership, 208 parking spaces are proposed. We have 3 curb cuts proposed, 2 out to Washington Street, like there is currently, and 1 on Depot Street. We met with the development team at Town Hall about a month ago, received some feedback that we feel like we've addressed all of those comments in this plan. One thing that came up in particular was our plan was to have the trucks, the trucks that will be dropping off the cars come in off of Depot Street and unload, obviously, on our property. one suggestion that was made was that the trucks exiting onto Washington Street would be a right-hand only exit from our site going south on Washington Street to prevent them from having to cross 4 lanes of traffic to head north on 138. So we've made that change. All the other plan components all meet your zoning requirements. The building meets all zoning setbacks. We have the required green space. We have an on-site drainage system proposed in accordance with stormwater management. Right now, you've got that big building with that big parking lot. There's essentially no landscaping and there's certainly no drainage. So with the construction of our project, we'll be handling all the stormwater runoff on our site, taking care of that in accordance with stormwater management guidelines. So that's certainly a benefit. In addition to that, we do have landscaping proposed around the perimeter, although we'll probably be making some changes to that. We have received a review from the planning department that we haven't addressed yet. The plans and information have also been sent out to the consultant, and we of course haven't received that yet. That was just sent out early last week. So certainly in the next meeting or so that we have with you folks, we'd like to have some revisions made and all of those concerns raised tonight by the board, by the planning department in their review, and the other town departments, and then certainly the planning board's consultant. At that point, we hopefully would have addressed all of his concerns. So that's just a real quick version of what we're doing. I'd like to just hand it off to Adam just to give you a quick history of his family and their dealership, and then I think we could answer any questions that you folks have. Also, 1 second. Could I share the screen, Stephanie?
Please do.
All right.
I mean, actually, you should be asking the chair, but.
Mr. Chairman, would it be okay if I share the screen?
Please do.
Thank you, sir. That is not it. Everybody see that?
Not yet.
No, but given your technical skills, I know it usually takes 3 or 4 attempts.
Wait a minute.
Just teasing.
Oh, no, it's justified.
At least we didn't get Pac-Man this time. So.
You need to pay for bandwidth. Nothing
Trying
yet.
to call up my color rendering, Stephanie, and it's called up, but for some reason, you folks obviously are not seeing it. I hope you go
What are
back
you-
in person at some point, Mr.
Are
Chairman.
you sharing your screen or the application?
Share the screen.
Why
you
don't you
clicked on the-
share the application?
You've clicked on the green button at the bottom, share screen, correct?
Yeah, but there is an option to share the application. Sometimes the screen is, if he has more than one screen, that's a problem.
We've reached the awkward silence portion of the program.
Yeah.
How do you think I feel, Mr. Chairman, honestly?
I know I shouldn't have ridiculed. I feel terrible. I won't sleep tonight.
I think that's the case. Nothing
Mr.
there.
Chair, can I kind of try and walk him through it?
God's
Yes,
sake.
please.
Okay, so you've clicked on the green button at the bottom that says share screen, correct?
Have.
And then you clicked on the open document.
Did, and nothing happened.
There it goes. Something's happening. Okay, now click on the file.
I did. Seeing it.
doesn't look as though you've opened it. Because we can see your file folder.
Still nothing?
Is what you're attempting to open, has it been uploaded to Permanite?
There it is.
There you go.
Now we see it.
Now you see it?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, see a
just
site plan.
needed to load up.
All right. Well, thanks for the 10-minute delay. I appreciate your patience, folks. And your ridicule as well, Mr. Chairman. Obviously well-deserved, so.
I thought it behaved well.
You were. You kept most of your comments to yourself. So with that, I think now I'll just hand it off to Adam and take a quick drink of water and relax a little bit.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and the rest of the board and everyone present for giving us this opportunity to chat with you briefly tonight. As Scott said, we're proposing to relocate our existing Volkswagen dealership, which is currently at 122 Liberty Street, to 661 Washington Street. But I'm going to give you the Cliff Notes version of our company's history, both in the area and as far as in relation to the Volkswagen franchise. In January of 1962, my grandfather opened up the Volkswagen dealership on South Main Street in Brockton. And that franchise remained in our family until 1983. It shared space with our Honda franchise. Our Honda franchise continued on after 83 when our relationship with Volkswagen ended at the time. Times were different, and a business decision was made. Our Honda franchise was relocated to Route 44 in Rainham at the behest of American Honda, who told us they would not put another dealership back in Brockton. And of course, that's not the case. But regardless, Volkswagen has always been near and dear to my heart. So my grandfather, my father, myself, I'm the third generation dealer. My daughter, Abigail, has come. She's a graduate of UNH and a proud graduate of Oliver Ames High School. I lived in Easton for 13 years. So time has moved on, and I was able to repurchase our existing Volkswagen Point. A dealership is considered a point in the community that it serves, the area at large, despite if it moves addresses. So the point that we currently have in Brockton will simply be relocated to Easton. But so this will be a fourth generation family business coming into Easton. We're very proud. We've served this area for a very long time between our Brockton and Rainham locations. So for over 60 years, this is our 61st year in business, and we couldn't be happier with the thought of putting Volkswagen in Easton on 138 and redeveloping this parcel of land and being a good community neighbor and certainly steward of the property as well. I'll keep it short, simple, and sweet. And if you have any questions at all about us as a corporation, or our involvement in the community and or about the project itself, please feel free to ask. I'm an open book.
Okay, thank you. So, Scott, or you're going to take questions now, or you have anything else to present?
I think so, Mr. Chairman. I think that's about what we have for you.
Scott, do you have the rendering of the exterior? I'm afraid to ask you to change the picture.
Thank you.
Scott, I do have it if you need me to share it.
That's Nathan from BKA. He can share his version of the architecturals. After all that, I'll stop my share and hand it over to Nathan.
Excellent. Hopefully this goes smoother than Scott's screen share. So.
I'm on my best behavior.
Let me know if that works. All right, can everybody see my screen?
There we
We
go.
have a rendering.
Yes.
I mean, I can give a brief description. The building's pretty straightforward. And the way the process works for anybody that's not familiar, we are Adam's architect as Scott is their civil engineer. We have a lot of leeway in the actual footprint of the building, but the basic design itself is really dictated by Volkswagen. And that's actually what you're seeing here. The palette of materials as well as the actual design of the exterior is developed by them, and it does have to follow a very specific criteria, and making any changes to it is actually quite a process. So which I will save you from, but that's the long and short of it. For the most part, the building is a curtain wall system with white ACM. And the majority of the back of the building could be clad in any material that we see fit. Here they're showing it as EIFS, but we have options to do a plethora of materials as long as we stick with what they call the white frame. And the majority of the building is a white material. So that's about all I can really say to it. If anybody has any questions on it.
I would just ask, since it may come up, have you decided what the rear you were just speaking of, what that material will be?
Currently, we're planning on like an EIFS material because it does fall within their approved palette.
Okay.
To keep with that
For those who
clean
don't know,
white-
it's a synthetic stucco, basically.
Yep.
Right.
And that is a white, very smooth EIFS. That's their standard. But that's the current idea, is to stick with an EIFS around the back. But again, as it develops with Volkswagen, that is open to change. But that is the plan currently, is EIFS.
Okay.
But the white shroud that you see in the front, the entry portal, as well as the signage, that is all an ACM or a metal composite panel. That we don't have much say in changing.
I think it may be helpful. I have the advantage of I've sat in on 3 or 4 meetings for this project going back to the summer. And what I haven't heard, I think it might be helpful, whether it's Scott or someone, maybe put up the site plan or a landscaping plan and just quickly walk through how this site is going to function. You know, I know Adam in the first meeting said, know that it's close to our neighborhood. They're not going to have exterior audio, things of that nature. Might smooth the process and expedite our evening if we can get a quick 5-minute walkthrough from someone on your team.
Sure, I can probably address that. As far as the lot, we would do pretty much, if anybody's familiar with our Honda location in Raynham.
Adam, if I could I'm just going to interrupt for a second. Can we put the site plan or a landscaping plan back up? I think it may help.
That was Nathan. Do you have that? I know that was Scott. So
I don't have it open, but I can, if you'd like.
If you have that, why don't we pop it open just to keep it simple?
Scott, I didn't mean to make you sweat there.
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
It was me.
Perfect. All right.
Great.
So just so I get credit, that was me.
Okay. There you go.
Right.
Scott and I can maybe tag team, but I'm going to address the lighting and the audio, the PA audio system, whatever you want to call it. Just as we do at Honda, where we back up to residential streets on 2 sides of our property. The lights that would be on the perimeter of the property are all shielded in the back. So there is, to prevent artificial light spillage off of the property, and there will be no outdoor paging system. So neighbors or even people on the lot would not hear sales pickup line 3. That does not happen. Any paging is internal in the building, and it ends there.
Because as far as the landscaping goes, Mr. Chairman and board members, you can see we've got the green buffer all the way around the perimeter. A large landscaped area in the front, also along the side, on the 2 sides that are abutting the mutual gas station. To be honest, in that area, we do not have any shrubs or fencing planned in that area, just to kind of open the site up for visibility up and down Washington Street. Along our residential properties, we had screening proposed, a series of evergreens, and stockade fence that, were placed in locations that we felt would kind of shield the abutting homes. In the planning department's review, they would like to see more, extensive plantings or fencing around the entire perimeter abutting the residential properties, which would essentially be along the back here, where our neighbor on Depot Street, their house is up close to Depot Street, but they have a very large, yard area that I'm sure they use, frequently. So we will, add some screening in the back of our property to screen them from the business. Up alongside, we have the learning experience. They have a stockade fence there already. We've added, some plantings to supplement their fence, in that location.
And Scott, just while we're here, so behind the building on the western property line,
Yep.
right there. What can you, just for the audience, kind of explain what's happening with the topography there, the level of the ground, existing versus proposed, and how it relates to the neighbor's yard?
We're raising our site a little bit, the building, but to be honest with you, we're pretty much holding the existing grade. So our site is a little bit higher than the neighbor's property. It kind of rolls off from the wood line onto their grass area. So it will remain that way. We have catch basins proposed at the back of the curbing to ensure that there's no runoff from our property getting over to the neighbor's yard. But there's really not a lot of fill that's going to be brought in on the site, Mr. Chairman. As you look at the plan right here, the left-hand corner of our property, the bottom left-hand corner, is pretty much the highest spot on our property. So we're kind of holding that existing grade. There are no retaining walls proposed, so we're pretty closely matching existing grade with our proposal.
Okay, great, thanks. So at this point, open it up to board members. Any questions or comments?
Yes, reading the notes from the staff, there are 10 items that requires attention from the applicant. I don't want to read the 10 of them, but if you want, I can. I have it in front of me. There are some things missing on the plans. I guess it was addressed by Scott when he said that this will be completed and these 10 items are being taken into consideration. So the question is, do you have 10 items that you need to complete?
Yeah, I think, as I said, through you, Mr. Chairman, we do have the planning department's review from last week that we have not addressed, certainly for this meeting, and we're still expecting the peer review from the board's consultant. So we'll certainly have plan revisions, but all of the suggestions that were made in the review from March 13th, we certainly have no issue with any of the suggested changes, and we'll certainly make those changes in time for our next meeting with you folks.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Unless you have anything else?
Yes, I have two more questions. One is it's not really I didn't require anywhere, but what is the plan for energy consumption, energy efficiency for this building? Is there a plan for solar panels, LED lighting, exterior light controls, high efficiency water heating, efficiency high bath? Can we make that answer part of our approval right on? Insulation?
No, I think well, they can certainly answer the question. I think it would be difficult for us to require things of that. It's a little bit out of our purview.
I think Nathan can probably answer a few of those questions, Mr. Chair.
I sure can. Well, we will be using high efficiency LED lighting throughout the exterior of the building as well as the interior. There will be a lighting control system. The level of sophistication, I don't think we've determined quite yet. But again, all the equipment in the building, whether it's mechanical or electrical, would be of a relatively high efficiency rating, especially having to meet the energy codes in the state of Massachusetts. We'll be meeting or exceeding those on every level, with mechanical systems, building envelope, lighting. So we should be pretty good with all of that. And there is an intention, we are designing it from a structural capacity to take solar panels. I'll leave that to Adam to discuss if, what his plan is, how quickly, but we are designing the building to accommodate solar.
It's our intention to, to have solar panels in place.
Last issue that I want to highlight, it is known that auto repair and dealership have some environmental impact if not managed properly. What are the measures in the design and the management of this facility to contain spills and releases of solvents, oil, gasoline, other pollutants to the surface water, to the groundwater? What just as interest for the probably the problems associated with that? What are the plans for that? What is incorporated into the design of the site to improve the situation?
I think I can answer that one, Mr. Chairman. As with any commercial building with overhead doors, there need to be floor drains, and the floor drains discharge into an oil grease separator. In a case where we have municipal sewer, after the oil grease separator ties directly into the sewer. In our case, where we have a on-site septic system, instead of tying into municipal sewer, it will discharge to a tight tank that has an alarm system, and they'll have a contract with an environmental company to handle pumping that out when need be. But everything is contained within the garage itself. The floor drains are within the garage. If there is a spill of oil or windshield wash fluid, anything to that effect, it gets squeegeed into the floor drains into the trench, and then goes out to the oil grease separator, and eventually out into the holding tank. So everything is contained within the building, nothing out in the parking lot at all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. I'm not sure all set. Bob or Deborah, you know what I mean? Or Peter, have any questions, comments?
How many employees will work here on a usual day?
We currently, at our Brockton location, which is considerably smaller, we currently have 23 employees. We would envision being somewhere in the 35 to 40 range when we are at full steam. That'll take a few years to get to full steam, but I would anticipate when we open having somewhere about 30.
Could you please point out where like the planned employee parking locations are?
Yeah, it would be in the back of the building, and along the side and along the back.
Okay, and what are the hours of operation?
Our current hours of operation, I can give you, and again, they were certainly changed by COVID, as was the whole world. So the snapshot in time for what we currently operate at is service and parts open at 7:30 in the morning, and they stay open until 5 o'clock. Sales is from 9 to 6. That's a Monday through Friday, and on Saturdays, 5 o'clock is usually the end of the day. Obviously, we're an automobile dealership. If a customer walks on the lot at 5:45 and says they'd like to talk to us about buying a vehicle, we're not going to throw them out the door. It's not Kmart, please take your purchases to the register. Nobody deserves to be treated like that. So we'll stay with them. But those are our posted hours. Again, like any business, subject to change. We are not open on Sundays. We've not been open on Sundays at our Honda dealership for, I want to say 5 years. And when we purchased the Volkswagen store in October of 21, we maintained that tradition. You know, again, obviously things are subject to change with conditions around us, but that is our intent, is to, for the most part, you know, hold on to those hours. They seem to be family friendly to our employees and to our customers.
Okay, great. And the delivery vehicle, like, I'll say like the vehicle delivery truck, where would they offload the vehicles from?
They would come in on Depot Street, turn right into the lot, and kind of between these rows of parking, they would offload their load, and then they would leave, go out to Washington Street, turn right to head south, make a circle.
All right, and then the service pull-in area, there's a garage door on the front and the rear, I assume?
Yeah, there's twin doors on the front, so kind of it lines up with the northern curb cut on Washington Street. They would pull in straight forward. There'd be 2 high-speed overhead doors, and the customers' clients would pull in, and we would take over from there.
Yep. Okay, and then I heard something about the evergreen trees along that southwestern green space.
Yes.
Is that Mr. Farrier? How many trees are there on the plan, or what are those that are proposed?
We do have them, as I said, right here in the corner. There's 3 proposed, around the corner 7, and then we have some fencing spaced out. The planning department's comment was that they like to see more landscaping there. Right now we have a little bit of a space there, maybe a 40-foot space, another 20-foot space here with nothing, and then the majority of this had nothing. We were just figuring where the house is up on Depot Street, perhaps we wouldn't need to screen that, but after our review letter and comments, we'll certainly provide screening along that. So the entire perimeter surrounding the residential properties on Depot Street will be screened.
Yeah, I feel like that might be revisited either tonight or at the next meeting. And that might be a good thing to really kind of figure out first, so we're not try to redo things later on. If we can just really get that figured out, and how you're going to get that side to work with the neighborhood, the people over there. I think that would be a good thing to kind of get figured out at the beginning, rather than just let it keep on manifesting itself as we have a few meetings.
No, we will screen appropriately. We did the same thing at our Honda dealership. We wound up putting up pretty consistent screening, and we will absolutely do that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was just picturing. I think maybe when we do a site walk, we'll be able to picture that height of a building, where it is, and then how far the delivery trucks, et cetera, might be, and maybe it'll make all that a little more sense. I just have that feeling, so I'll just bring that up now, and you'll probably hear it again from me. Thank you.
Sure.
Is that it, Peter?
Actually, if I may, in terms of delivery trucks, these are not things that come all day long every day. Just so everybody's perceptions are kind of correct. We currently sell about 40 new Volkswagens a month, and we stock anywhere from 30 to 50. We receive about 20 a month, plus used cars. So you're talking about maybe in the course of a month, if we see 10 to 12 carriers a month. The carriers, when they're full, hold 9 vehicles. So.
No, and they just drive right off. I know it's not like a big offload process, right? They just lower the ramp and they drive them off. And
they drive them off.
They take off, right? Yeah.
Yeah, they're gone within. If the driver chooses to use the indoor plumbing, it's 20 to 30 minutes.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I think we'll get this to work. Just something that's going to come up.
Oh, absolutely.
We know it's going to come up. So. Yeah.
Yep. No, it's a question that's going to come up, and I'm sure people from the public, if they have questions, they'll ask about it. And I think people are often amazed at how low volume a car dealership is in terms of overall traffic. I can promise you.
Yeah, and you know, at least one of the things that kind of comforted me, at least me, you know, when we rezoned the red house and its yard, was that red house was going to stay. So I mean, I'm not saying the red house has to stay now, but I just mean like that was kind of like the picture of what was going to happen. So, but now we're at this point, and looks like a pretty cool project, but we just have to keep that in mind. So I'm okay for now. Yep.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, Peter, any other questions?
Nope.
Okay, Deb or Bob?
I had a question. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
So one thing I'm thinking about is the main face of the building is the face that is on Washington Street. That's where the new vehicle display will be. And then the secondary face, which is more of the service area, is off of Depot Street. Did you consider having the building be sited so it's 90 degrees from the way it is now, so that like the larger street presence would be on Washington Street versus Depot Street?
The larger street presence is on Washington Street. I think it may be, that's the side of the building you're looking at that faces Depot Street. And those kind of hash marks, that's the interior of the shop. So the facade, the face of the building is facing Washington Street.
That's correct.
But the width and depth of the building, the building is much deeper than it is wider, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
So
And
I
Adam,
guess I'm just saying in terms of footprint.
Car dealerships inherently are like that. It's, if we turned it 90 degrees, as you're suggesting, the side of the building would be facing Washington Street and the face would be facing Depot Street, which would make no commercial sense.
So are you saying the front face of most commercial auto dealerships is the more narrow face?
Yes.
Okay.
And as you're looking at the front, the entire width, you're seeing what protrudes out, so to speak, is the showroom. As you recess back, looking on the northern side, that's the service reception that also faces the front of the building. And on the southbound side, that's just a setback into the showroom. So that is all the front of the building.
Okay. I guess my other question would be, I know we've talked about rezoning this area and having it be more pedestrian friendly and try to integrate Washington Street into the neighborhood more. Obviously, an auto dealership, you're likely going to arrive there in your auto and leave there in your auto. It's not really a type of business that lends itself to something like that. But that's not to say that there isn't going to be pedestrian traffic on like the new sidewalks on Depot Street or the ones that are planned for Washington Street. Is a pedestrian still able to navigate? I realize there's a mutual gas station there that's currently in place. And I do see, is that a new sidewalk up by the front street there with landscaping on either side? I think Scott might have been
Yes.
alluding to that.
Yeah, that's on our site, not within the highway layout, but on our site. There is no sidewalk in front of our site within Washington Street. We are proposing that in, as I said, within our landscaped area.
So if in the future, so that little strip of, I don't know, it looks like roadway, it's item K. What is item K? By Washington Street. It's
K
like
is
towards the right.
Yeah, it's a 5-foot sidewalk.
Okay, all right. And then, okay,
So I mean, to be honest, in our case, it's kind of a sidewalk to nowhere, because when you get to the mutual gas station, there is no sidewalk. So,
okay. And then I know you already discussed site lighting and shielded fixtures and so forth. What is the type of lighting that's proposed on the building?
You're referring to exterior lighting attached to the building?
Yeah, like is there up down lights? Like, you know, how is the building lit?
I can speak to that, Adam. So the building itself, there are downlighting for egress purposes to light the sidewalks. It's fairly minimal, but it does provide some nice ambient lighting around the sidewalks around the perimeter. Basically, a light at every exterior egress door and at all the overhead doors, but it's not significant light.
And will the showroom remain lit during the off hours at all?
The showroom will most likely remain lit for a few hours to allow for cleaning, janitorial services, but it will not be on all night. There would be some security lighting inside.
All right, that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Of course.
Thanks, Deb. Bob, do you have anything?
Mr. Chair, can I ask another question?
Let me hear from Bob first, and then I'll circle back with you.
No, I'm all set for now.
Okay.
Thanks.
So I'll just chime in quickly, and it's kind of been touched on, but I think it's imperative to fully screen the western property line, basically with the neighborhood. I know
there's
that's
no
gotta
doubt.
be addressed. So,
Mr. Chairman,
then,
there's no doubt that will absolutely be done, and it will be reflected on the updated plans.
and I'm wondering, I didn't see anything on here, but if you remember our first meeting where we talked about the historical mile marker, is that something we can still?
Yes, actually, we need to identify where that is physically located, and so I want to say it's kind of on the western side on Depot Street, correct?
Exactly. It's pretty much, it's right on Depot Street, the
It
furthest
looks like it
west.
fits in that green square.
Yeah, the furthest western edge on Depot Street. But that
Yeah,
right,
actually, it says right here, protect during construction. There's a note.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so that we will absolutely maintain that, and
yeah, we can coordinate with historical and maybe get something written up. But we can.
Yep, absolutely.
So that was
Greg,
just mine too.
It's part of the 10 points that I mentioned. It's one of them.
Right. I just wanted to reiterate that. So Amos, quickly, what else do you have?
I wanted to say this is an appropriate project for revitalizing this area, and it's a good project. The question is, are you going to have a street sign? I didn't see that, but maybe it is in the plan.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question? I apologize.
Are you going to have a street sign?
Have a
Or just a separate sign?
Amos, you keep breaking up at the end. I don't think we can get it.
A street sign.
yeah.
Street sign. Oh, street sign.
Street sign. You mean identifying the business? Is that the
Yeah.
question?
Show 'em.
Oh, there will be, yes, the plans will show a Volkswagen brand sign out on Washington Street, and on Depot Street. We know the sign cannot be internally illuminated.
Okay.
Okay, so that's it from the board. Stephanie, do you have any questions or comments that have been covered?
I don't think so. The lighting, again, they did not, I didn't see details showing that they were dark sky friendly, and the wattage is higher than what is allowed in the rules and regulations. I note that in my letter. Again, everyone's talked about the buffer. One of the things that wasn't really discussed was the historical building, the residential that's going to be demolished. They did, the applicant did seek a demolition review with the Historical Commission, who voted that the building was not preferably preserved on the condition that they get all their permits before seeking the actual demolition permit. And I think one of my comments was just about having Mr. Silberlieb discuss the traffic. I think he's pretty much covered that. So I think that's it.
Okay, great, thank you. So now to any of the folks in the audience, if you just please raise your hand. Like I say, when we get to you, name and address for the record. So I see we have a hand up from Erin Goggin. But forgive me if I didn't pronounce your name correctly. It's not one of my strengths. But Stephanie, if you could call.
I'm going to allow Erin to talk.
Oh, that's great. I thought I'd have to type. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can. So just name and address for the record.
Sure.
Please.
This is Erin Goggin from 125 Depot Street.
Welcome.
Thank you. Am allowed to comment or just ask questions?
Whatever you want to.
Okay, so just from we had an agreement with the former owner, which I understand is different. The building was going to stay, and that building contains a single mom, and the two children are my kids' best friends. So you can understand that we're not super happy that now they're relocating, which is it really is not great. So what they were going to give us before, my concern is at that entrance on Depot Street where they're talking about trucks coming in, there are children. That is a bus stop. There are children in that, in all of those houses in that area. So if they're going to make Depot that entrance or exit, I'm sorry, I think you said entrance.
Right.
I think I would really appreciate them considering the timing of when they do so that it's maybe during school hours or, weekends. I don't know. I don't know when would be a good time, but there are a lot of kids that play in that area. And then the other thing was the people that were buying the property before, they considered the community. And I know you guys are doing as well, because it sounds like one of your owners is from Easton that's lived here for 13 years. I would really hope that you guys consider the kids in the area. I'm assuming the school is going to move the bus stop. They were going to make like a nice little bus stop for that area for us, because it's unsightly right now. The kids wait in the front yard of that red house that you're knocking down. So that would be something we would really appreciate. And then I know my husband is going to address other things, so I'm done for now. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone want to address those comments?
I can certainly, in the green area where the mile marker is, if it would make sense to carve out a small piece of that with some type of a place for kids to wait for the bus, I don't have an issue with that.
That would be great.
Yep, that's easy enough to do. We're already preserving it for the mile marker anyhow. It'd be very simple and easy to do that. That's not a problem.
Great. Thank you very much.
Of course.
Thank you.
All right. So next up, I see Jessica. Just moved. I can't see. Oh, it's up top now.
Can you hear me, please?
Yes. Yep. Name
Okay.
and address, please. For the
Yes,
record.
Jessica Chochi. I'm at 129 Depot Street. So I am next to Aaron and Mark there. So my property, it says McNamara on the plans, but that is, I bought the property about 7 years ago. So I do have that whole length of the yard at the back of the building on the west side. I will say thank you to the board and everyone that has been bringing up the buffer there and a proposed longer fence, if that's the case. I'm picking up bits and pieces from this as it's my first meeting, so I do appreciate that. There is existing landscaping, some trees, some very mature trees on my property line, which I just want to ensure any existing landscaping remains, and how I can, if we do a site walk, I would very much like to be a part of that. So if the neighbors would be notified a future walkthrough, please definitely involve myself, and I know Aaron and Mark as well. Let's see. The fence at the moment, well, could someone touch on that again? The fence is proposed to extend the length of that?
That's correct. A bunch of the comments that have been made were just increased plantings and fencing along that along our entire property line that abuts your property.
Okay. Yes, thank you. And then in addition to that, just to ensure what is there now won't, because it's on the line. So I believe it's on my property because it's not on this plan, but there are some, overgrown shrubs which act as a barrier. So I would like to keep those there. In addition to a large, very mature oak tree as well. So in the corner. Would markings be made? Will there be a tape line or something as to where the actual property is?
Yeah, we'll stake out that property line, all the property lines, prior to the board coming out for a site walk. So
Okay.
within the next week or so, we'll get out there and do all the staking, and then everything will be ready for reviewing when the board is ready.
Okay, so that was actually a good lead into my next question, was the timeline of this. So as early as next week, you'll be able to do staking. Okay. How much longer, again, further on, will the timeline go here? Will it move pretty quickly upon approval, I guess?
Well, the process, so it's important to recall, so this is a site plan review. The proposed use is allowed in our bylaws. So the planning board, our responsibility here is to make sure that the plan meets, the objectives of our bylaws and of the citizens of Easton, as defined in our bylaws. So it's out, the project's going through peer review right now, being engineers that are hired by the town to review stormwater management and other items. There's talk, we may do a site visit. It's important to recall that this site visit is just for informational purposes. The board, we don't deliberate out there, we can't ask questions. And it is not up to us it's not a public meeting. If the owner of the property wants to allow abutters on, that's fine. But sometimes, just in fairness, sometimes people are concerned with liability. So again, it's not a public hearing. It's for the board to go out and familiarize itself with the site and with certain aspects of the site. And we meet every 2 weeks. Our next meeting is April 3rd. Stephanie can probably give a better handle on where things are at with site, with the review from peer review. But I would imagine we are probably 2 or 3 meetings out, maybe, from wrapping this up, just based because of site, because of peer review. And if I've misspoken, Stephanie,
No, I think that's pretty
correct.
accurate. I think we'll be able to get it to move along, but I do think it will not be done completely done by the next meeting.
Okay.
And we don't look to rush this too much, because even though I feel this is a important project for Easton, for this part of town, but we here at Planning and Zoning, we pride ourselves on we're all the citizens of the same town and understand the concerns of people that abut projects, especially in areas where you have a mix of commercial and residential. It can often be a difficult water to navigate.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. So we will just have to keep looking at the calendar to know when the next meetings are. We, as neighbors, we were not notified of this meeting through the town. I don't know if there was any notification that went out that maybe we missed, or what we should look forward to in the next meetings.
Well, so where this is, it's interesting. This is kind of always this is a site plan review, so public notification on behalf of the applicant is not required if it was, for example, a special permit or a variance, because again, the use here is allowed. But you're here at tonight's meeting. When we at the end of this, we will continue it to a date, and they'll probably whether we pick a date for a site walk, if we do one, or we may pick that next couple of days. But you certainly could ask the applicant if the abutters would be allowed. But I wouldn't hold against anybody if they're not, because liability is a real issue, obviously, in our world. And you can always check in with the planning department in terms of when the next meeting is, if you're not sure, or if there is going to be a sidewalk that people are allowed at.
Okay, thank you. I do have one more question.
Sure.
During construction, the trucks you mentioned entering and exiting Depot Street, what's the scale of that? Like, is there like a number of trucks a day or a week, or how is the actual traffic of those trucks going to increase with all the building materials and such?
Actually, I would envision during the construction period, I would actually envision using the 2 curb cuts on Washington Street. There will be fencing put up, construction fencing put up around the entire property during the construction, with gates at the 3 curb cuts, the one on Depot and the 2 on Washington. But I don't see a whole lot of reason for them to come down Depot Street during construction. I would envision them, coming down Washington Street, heading south, entering on the northern entrance and exiting on the southern entrance, would be my thought. And we can certainly talk to the contractor about making that the flow and keeping the construction equipment off Depot Street, unless there was a rare occasion they needed something, somehow, some way to come in on a rare occasion. But I would envision, if I lived there, I wouldn't want the construction equipment coming down my street either.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah, you're welcome. And just so you know, where I live now, there are houses being built down the street from us, and it's been a nightmare with them coming at ridiculous hours and everything else. So I've lived your horror show, and I will not let my project be that way, because I've lived.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
You're welcome.
Great, thank you. All right, next up we have Mark Gogan. Stephanie?
Yep. Oops, wait a minute. I hope I got the right person. No. Mark is ready.
Hi, Mark, can you hear me?
Barely.
Any better?
I can hear you. Hello?
All right. It was working. I was trying to get my, so you can hear me. All right, can you hear me now? Okay, so it's Mark Goggin, 125 Depot Street.
Welcome.
Thank you, sorry. Um, so just to echo some things that Jessica already said, and to go to about what you said for the site visit, it's definitely a good idea, because one of the things from my property is that my yard, due to some reason before I purchased the property, is much higher than Jessica's yard is. So her visibility into things is lower than mine would be. So just something that, and you can see that when you walk onto the 123 Depot property. You can see, you wouldn't have to cross on my property to see what I'm talking about. And also, it's the fencing and the landscaping. So if the plans say like a 6-foot stockade type fence, that's something just like to consider that it might need to be taller than that to compensate on my side for things, especially running on my backyard up the side that parallels that 123 Depot to the street. So that'd be something we want to be concerned about, is just the fencing and trees line going up that way. And then one other concern to bring up is, so currently there's a Ford dealership across the street from us that still has, on occasion, car alarms going off in the middle of the night for a long time. So definitely, if there's some way that we can figure out some type of system where if these alarms are going off in the middle of the night, that we can reach out to someone, whether if there's security, if you guys have security 24 hours on the property, or sorry, not 24, but overnight, somewhere we can reach out to get that taken care of as soon as possible, because it still happens, and it's even hearing it from the Ford dealership to our house is clear.
I can appreciate your comment. All I can say is that our Honda dealership, which abuts 2 residential streets in Raynham, that has never been an issue. So I don't know if this is a Ford issue. We don't sell Fords. I'm not going to give the acronyms that we use in the industry about Ford. Those are Ford dealers, but if obviously if this, we don't have plans for 24-hour security, but I do know that in Raynham and at our current Volkswagen location in Brockton, police and fire have a way to reach us if necessary. I live about 16 minutes from the site. I would probably be the closest person, and I would probably respond to that myself. So if we get somebody with a rogue car alarm, it would most likely not be a new vehicle. It would most likely be in for service. Apparently, I'll be talking to that customer the next day about doing something about fixing their alarm.
Okay, like I said, I just wanted to bring it up, and even if it's we reach out after the fact, an email to the company or something.
Absolutely. Actually, if you want to write this down, I'll give you my email now. If you have any concerns, you can feel free to reach out to me. It's Adam, ADAM, at Silco Auto Group, SILKO autogroup.com. Yeah, feel free to reach out to me with any thoughts, questions, concerns. I'll emphasize this one more time, and I'm happy to continue to emphasize it, our intent is to be a really good neighbor.
Awesome. That's great.
So,
it was more to the lines. I'm worried because I have some, I worked security at a court dealership in my teen years, so I was just thinking of that, and I do know that security and car dealerships are. I was just reading about people breaking into them recently just to steal them out of the showroom right from the floor. So it's just something concerning because it just came up in the news. That's all.
Appreciate the thoughts, without a doubt.
I'm just trying to look at my list. I think that's. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything on my side. Oh, just a question. So, how long does a project you get approved, everything's good, like break ground? Like, what's the average timeline of how long it would take?
Nathan, who's the architect, could probably speak better to it. I know that the last dealership that we built, it was pre-COVID, and supply chains were a whole lot quicker. We built our Honda facility in less than 6 months. That would be considered an Olympic record today with supply chain issues. So, Nathan, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm here. I would say, it wouldn't be longer than 12 months. I would guesstimate like an 8 to 9 month would be acceptable with the way the supply chains are working today.
Okay, awesome.
I mean, we could potentially, if things get better in the market and getting materials, you could do a dealership in as little as 6 months. So 6 to 12 months would be your minimum and your maximum, but I would foresee 9 would be what I would intend.
Okay, great. Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm good. Thank you.
All right, great, thank you. Okay, so we have taken questions from everybody that raised their hands. Stephanie or team members or board members, any final questions or comments before we wrap this one up for tonight?
No.
So why don't we, just for expediency, because I know we have another thing, why don't we, maybe Stephanie, Suzanne can reach out to us tomorrow. We can try to pick a date for our site walk. And to the abutters, I'd say circle back to Stephanie's office and find out when the sidewalk is and if public access would be allowed. But keep in mind, there wouldn't be any. There's no deliberation and it's just informational purposes. So it's if you are allowed, it's just to sort of walk along and listen. It's not a public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, just so everyone's clear, we close and take possession of this property. I believe it's April 18th or 19th. So
Okay.
from a liability standpoint with the current owner, I think it's best until we do that property walk. We'll stake it now with cooperation from the existing owner, but I think the property walk would best take place immediately after we take possession, so we don't have to have permission from yet a different party. Sure.
Okay, so that being the case, that's a month out. Let me ask the board members, do you feel, I know we are familiar, do you feel a site walk is necessary here? And if so, maybe we should just push our continuance out a meeting or two. Thoughts?
I'm pretty familiar with the site. I know we've walked it, for past proposals, so I don't.
Yeah, that might be contingent on at least having some of the trees on the western side that were discussed, located and put on the plan. It's a possibility. It might just turn out that we end up doing a sidewalk anyways, but
right. So Scott, to that point, have you located the trees in the vicinity of the western property lines?
We have, Mr. Chairman, but to be honest with you, while we're out there staking the lot lines, we'll make sure we locate, everything within 20 feet left or right of the lot line, just so we can show it.
Okay. Yeah, so then we can continue this to whatever the board decides or with the applicant, and then we can decide on a site walk after that. But I think if you could get put the existing trees, at least that are within a foot or two of the property line, just so that the abutters can be comfortable. Because of course, if it's not staked, nobody knows what's theirs or not.
Yeah, and I mean, even last time that we did the site walk, it was, a different project, obviously, but that whole back area wasn't cleared yet, right? So it was kind of a different, yeah.
Yeah, and it makes no sense for us to cut down mature trees and growth. They act as a natural buffer. It's a win-win for everybody to leave those.
Right. Well, right. And the plan right now doesn't show much in terms of buffer. So maybe your team would, if they're proposing full fence or fence and trees, so take a look at that. And why don't we can continue our discussion of whether we're going to have a site walk or not at our next meeting, since we have over a month anyways, right, till you close. So when should we continue this to? 1 meeting out or 2 meetings out? Stephanie or the applicant? I'll defer to you folks.
I mean, my suggestion would probably be the second, because I think by then we should really have firmed up the stormwater review, but again, it's up to the applicant.
Yeah, realistically, Mr. Cheshire just received the information last week and he may have been on vacation. So it's going to be a few weeks before we get a review, and then there's the back and forth. So I think your April 17th meeting probably makes the most sense for us, Mr. Chairman.
I think we have an April 24th meeting.
Correct.
We go the 3rd and then the 24th, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Patriots
So
Day, it's the 17th.
and Adam, you said you're closing the 18th. Is that what you said?
We're closing. I believe it's either the 18th or the 19th.
So maybe once you guys, so, maybe we can, maybe we can do a site walk a couple days after you close and prior to the 24th meeting. Just, I'll let you discuss that with Stephanie and scheduling, but that way, just so we can try to expedite things for everyone.
Yeah, if the meetings are every 2 weeks and you have one on the 3rd, the 2 weeks later would be the 17th.
Right, but
Patriots Day.
there's a 3-week jump this time.
I apologize.
Yeah, because of the Monday holiday.
Yep. No, and that's
A lot of the board members are running the marathon apparently this year. So.
Yeah, and however, I think it probably makes the most sense because Scott, I don't think with the waiting for the peer review and anything that we need to make adjustments to from that, I think we'd be cutting it. We'd be lucky to have it ready for the 3rd, correct?
It won't be, we won't have the review by the 3rd.
So then I would plan, I'll be so bold as to say the 24th, and if the board wishes to do a site walk, that is fine. And if the abutters would like to join us, as long as everyone looks down and watches where they step, we'll be good. So.
Okay, well, the board, we can communicate the next couple of days about that date, sidewalk, see if we can get something put together.
Sure.
So I will take a motion to continue to the April 24th from someone.
Motion to continue to April 24 for 661 Washington Street SPR.
Second, Stetson.
All right. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor, Greg Strange, aye. Peter Duchesne.
Aye.
Amas Kedem.
Aye.
Deb Balseric.
Aye.
And Robert Stetson.
Aye.
Great. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll
Thank
see
you, folks.
in 3 weeks.
Thank you very much.
Everybody, for your time and your comments. We appreciate it.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
You as well. Okay, next up is a board discussion, 19, 23, and 27 Eastman Street and Robert Drive with J.K. Holmgren Engineering.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Scott Farrier from Holmgren Engineering. We've got a couple of people on our team that are here for the discussion tonight, Mr. Chairman. Dave Siebert from BKA, Gary Beinecke, who's the owner and applicant of the property, and Aaron Waluka. There he is, Aaron as well. So I'll just quickly let you folks know what we're looking to discuss. Gary has property at 19, 23, and 27 Eastman Street. And if it's okay with you, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to attempt to share screen again. Does anybody see that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Great. So this is the subject property, Mr. Chairman. Number 27 Eastman Street is a brick office building on Mr. Beinecke's property. Robert Drive, which leads to the residential project in the back and the commercial plaza off of Eastman Street with a set of lights, and the Bank of Easton right at the corner. So we are in the Furnace Village District, Eastman Street overlay area. And as such, we've been kicking it around amongst ourselves for a year and a half, almost 2 years, as to exactly how best to develop the property. And at this point, we think that we have an idea that we'd like to pursue, but we didn't want to go too far with it without speaking to the board about it informally, just to make sure that we were kind of on the right path. I changed screens. I'm not sure if you folks see this plan now.
Yeah, that's up.
A different looking plan.
Yes.
Good. So, and as I said, Dave Siebert's here. He can certainly talk more about it, but just to really go over it quick, we have proposed 4 18-unit buildings. And the way we came up with the math the entire property, that Mr. Beinecke owns is 163,000 square feet. The zoning in the Furnace Village District Eastman allows a density of 1 unit per 2,500 square feet with a 10% affordable bonus. That would allow 18 units per 40,000 square foot lot. So we would look to take our 163,000 square foot property, divide it up into 4 conforming lots. And on each of those 4 lots, the density allowed would be 18 units. We have proposed roughly in front of you here 4 individual 18-unit buildings with a shared parking scheme off of Robert Drive and off of Eastman Street with 135 parking spaces for those 72 units. So almost 2-to-1 space. And as you can see at the plan, there's a lot of green space, a large green space buffer around the perimeter. Before we got too far into it, spent a lot of money on architectural engineering. We really just wanted to kind of run it by you guys and get a quick feeling on it. So I don't know if it's, perhaps I'll just let Dave Siebert give a quick rundown, and then we can probably just get some questions from you folks and not take up too much of your time.
Yeah, hi everyone. I think Scott really did cover the basic schematics. So yeah, there's 4 identical 18-unit buildings, so be able to phase this pretty well on each one on a fairly equal lot size with the proper frontage for this zone for each, and then shared access and shared parking fields. You know, we try to schematically place them to be able to keep this tree line, as Scott mentioned, and then retain the access off of Eastman and access off of Robert Drive, really at the only point where it makes sense grade-wise. There's a bit of a plateau along the whole drive until you get to where we're showing that new driveway. And as you mentioned, these are 3-story structures that would total the 72 units. They break, you know, these little blocks break down as like 2/3, 1/3, 2 bedrooms to 1 beds. So that, you know, the idea would be to have an economy of scale here, the same structure. Obviously, the exterior could vary at some points here and there as far as materials, colors, etc. I think that's about it as far as the schematic.
Okay, that concludes your presentation.
Actually, I think, is Gary gonna chime in?
Hi, good evening, everybody. Gary Beinecke. If there's any questions, you know, we're here to answer them, take input. As Scott and David had mentioned, you know, before we go too far on this, we just wanted to get your input with regard to the direction that we're going here, versus doing one large building and treating the property as one, you know, grand scale kind of a building, as opposed to keeping it a little bit smaller. Maybe keeping in architecturally with some of the existing areas, not having it look more like a hotel. So if there are any questions anybody has.
Okay, well, board members, I'm with you. First time I've seen this, so any questions or comments? This is kind of an unorthodox way to go about these things, but open forum here. So if you have any questions or comments.
Yes. Mr. Chair, As I saw this, my first question, and it's why we should even consider this project as presented, because it's proposed by the applicant as a residential development only, and he mentioned a lot of things about the zoning by law, but he didn't mention how this sub-district is defined in the bylaw. And I will read you from 235-51.2 B3, will define the Eastman Street sub-district as a commercial and mixed-use activity center designated for intensive commercial and mixed-use development. This is the language that was approved by the town meeting when they approved this bylaw. To me, it's clear that the intention of the bylaw and planning board for this sub-district was mixed use. If we use the special permit to override the intention of the bylaw, it is my honest opinion that we will have a credibility. I don't think we have the mandate to do that. I really understand the economic, financial, marketing, the imposition, the state laws about MBTA and the need for this type of housing. But if we are going to accept that these reasons are a reality and we need to live with this type of development, then I think we must go back to town meeting and change the language of the bylaws and the bylaws itself. Or, to this applicant, we need a compromise from this developer and introduce some mixed use. It's key, in my personal opinion, the mixed use is key to approve or to go ahead with this project. I think the residents of Easton might not be in support of this type of heavy residential density populated pockets. There are one just very near this one. And we are at risk of having a problem in our hands.
If I could just quickly address that, Mr. Chairman, and this is certainly, exactly why.
Scott, hang on a second. Scott, hang on a second. I was muted. I'm going to go first here. I appreciate but my question for you was, as I understood, you think you would like to see some mixed use in this. What would you consider mixed use, or what percentage? Like if there's 4 buildings here, so if they in each building, if they put a little office in each building, is that mixed use, or do you want to see the entire first floor? What's mixed use to you? Is it a separate building? What?
I guess that's part of the discussion and the compromise. I think offices, small shops, in part of the buildings, I don't know, but we cannot disregard what we put on the bylaw. And I think we are going to have a problem if we go this way. And I understand fully the reasons why developers come up with. But if this is reality, then we need to turn around and see how the bylaws respond to reality. Because we presented this to town meeting and to the voters a certain way, and I think this is deviating from that.
Okay. Yeah. Any board members? Any other questions?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I agree with Amos, but another point, is that just to split it up into 4 lots so that you can, have like the number of units per lot that is in the bylaw. It just doesn't seem like maybe not the right approach in general, but that's all I have.
Okay. Bob or Deb, do you guys have any comments?
Well, I actually agree with the comments previously made, but I appreciate the reduction in scale, breaking it up into multiple buildings as opposed to one much larger project. And I know this is like very preliminary, But can you just clarify? So is the building on the very bottom left, is that the Bank of Easton, I believe? Is that?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And so I think you had mentioned, did you say that like the buffer kind of between the Bank of Easton and then I guess there's two buildings really that are abut that property. Did you say that is where there's an incline, a steeper grade change, or the
That's
greatest
correct.
grade change? Okay.
Yes.
So would the buildings sit higher there than the grade that, say, the bank or the
Yeah, they would. They would.
Okay. Okay. That's all I wanted. Oh, and my last question is this is just an independent proposal and is not connected with the existing Avalon properties, or is it?
Not connected at all, ma'am. Nope. not at
Okay.
all.
Yeah, that's all for me.
Okay. Bob, do you have anything?
I kind of disagree with Deb a little bit. I think I'd rather see, a larger structure and, maybe an ancillary mixed building use, kind of like a pad space of some kind for a restaurant or what have you. I'm not sure. But maybe you can get some more parking in there and still maintain kind of the green space that you're seeing. So I'd rather see some consolidation, but that's just me.
Sure. I think I would say, and I get this is obviously very, very, very schematics being kind. It's 4 boxes laid out. I get it. But I think it's important when presenting anything to this board in the zoning to look at the bylaws that we spent quite a bit of time writing, and there's certain objectives there to try to hit, and and then there's the elephant in the room. There's the impending MBTA zoning, and which this board is going to start working on in this calendar year, and that's a pretty blunt tool that has a lot of residents in town concerned in a lot of towns.
Right.
And I think back to what I've always been saying. I'd like to see Easton get something on these buildings that let's keep Easton special. And what can we do? And we've seen a couple. Stephanie and I sat in on some meetings over the last year or two, and as these guys were kicking on some ideas, and here I see green space along the perimeter, but there's inside it's going to be all pavement and a bunch of buildings, and these might be beautiful buildings, they might be not beautiful buildings. Of course, that's all subjective. But I agree with one of the earlier comments. I hate to see any project that's completely just laid out by its sort of civil engineering requirements. All due respect, Scott. I can get behind projects as a board member and when I get excited by them. And, just like you guys, I'm sure you have people knocking on your door and emailing you and texting you and calling you all the time, complaining about all the apartments in town. And I don't see, I don't even think this would qualify for the MBTA zoning because there's only 1 and 2 bedrooms. There's no 3 bedrooms. We keep talking about wanting to make the town younger and get families in. Well, how are families going to go here? There's only 1 or 2 bedrooms. There's not going to be any green space to use. So I would like to see a project that's a little more, on a holistic with our bylaw, or a little more organic with it, and that really takes advantage of it. It was an aggressive bylaw, which is developer friendly, but for the benefit of the town. I don't see that in this version. I don't see that yet. But of course, this is a very real preliminary version. But
Can I just ask one quick question, Mr. Chairman?
That's my fault. Sure.
We're talking about the zoning, and as far as we're reading the zoning, mixed use is not required. It says mixed use may be allowed. And in fact, if it is allowed, the residential density is decreased. So a mixed use in this district is not required. So I don't think we're and again, I don't even want to say proposing, but I don't think we're talking about anything that's in conflict with the amount of time and energy that all of you folks spent on the bylaw. I think this plan is aligns with the bylaw.
Well, Scott, you've been involved in this district a lot since it started, so you have the benefit of hearing a lot of what we've said on other projects. And look at 464, for example. Originally that came in as mixed use, but it was a bit tight. It's a lot of the lots in this district are small, so it makes maybe separate pad mixed use somewhat difficult. But at the same time, I heard quite a bit through those last public hearings from both board members and some of the residents in town that they felt somewhat disappointed or bamboozled that there wasn't a mixed use element to it. So maybe that's why that's coming up here. This is special permits, so we look to sort of collaborate and mold together something. And I understand when the scale of economy and the economies of scale, when people come in and want to simplify things and dumb them down, and we're thinking for the bottom line, because it is a business after all. Understand that, but this is our town after all, for all 25,000 of us, and we've talked for years about diversified housing, but we've been getting the vast majority, the vast majority of new houses new units, I should say, in the last decade have been rental. And that's, whether that's good or bad, that's not for me to say, but I would like to see it a little more diversified. I'd like to see some more special, unique types of developments, so we can keep our property value up, because we don't have much commercial space. We're a residential tax base, and that's always going to remain. And I'd like to see some families come in. And I don't see a lot of families going to come in with just 1 or 2 bedrooms. So anyways, and again, it's difficult to really, I think, for any of us this is such a preliminary, I wouldn't even call it a plan. It's just, it's schematics. I mean, I understand what it is, but
it's ugly engineering blocks, as you said, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, who knows? Oh, I've offended a civil engineer. Forgive me. Stephanie, do you have anything you want to chime in with? I mean, to exclude.
No, I think you've covered quite a bit.
Thank you.
So board members, anything else? Or?
Well, I would like to, my vision was that maybe less buildings.
I could barely hear someone in the background.
Yeah, maybe less buildings will be better, especially if the first floor will be commercial. And maybe our special permit can take some liberties with the height of the building. If it requires a few more floors to accommodate a more dense residential apartment. And as Greg mentioned, some of these apartments maybe it will be 3 rooms or different with variety. So that will probably kind of satisfy the bylaws and make this a project that maybe will be a better one.
I mean, if this is the only type of project that's really economically feasible in this whole area, then we're going to have to pick and choose the best ones, and and really make sure that we're doing what we need to do for the town. It's not just oh well, this is what the only thing that's going to work here, so you guys have to approve it. That's not what it's about. So that's why we have the mechanisms in place to help guide the project along. But
and I see I have a hand in the audience, but I think a thought I have too. It's just like wordsmithing, or just like trying to figure out a project. It's difficult to do in a group over here. But your team has come in. You've talked to the board tonight. Maybe what would make sense, to circle back. I don't know, in a couple of meetings out or something. Let the board members, digest this. They might, maybe drive up there to take a look. They just, give it a thought. And the same with your team. And then maybe we can talk again, in a couple of meetings. But
appreciate that.
That's
Thank
that.
you.
Why don't we, Dale Carrister, I see, has a hand up. I'm assuming it's for this. I didn't recognize it before. So if you want to call Dale up.
I'm trying, I somehow lost the other participants.
No, it's, you have all, I see all 13 of them.
Ah,
You want me to call them up? Can you not see them?
yeah, can you, I don't know what happened to,
I think.
oh, wait a minute, I've got it, I've got it.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can, Dale. Name and address for the record, please.
Dale Carrister, 21 South Street. Echoing the comments that I made at the conclusion of the public hearing on 464 Foundry Street. I had asked the board in connection with any future projects to consider that the town voters certainly understood that the quid pro quo for the agreeing to the higher density was mixed use to fulfill the stated goals of walkable neighborhoods and so forth. I am very, very concerned about now hearing this next project, a very large project that has no mixed use whatsoever. And I think from the town's perspective, and I'd ask the board to consider this, that there's a real danger of the town losing credibility with the town voters, that I think what would have happened had the town put proposed zoning changes forward that did not have a mixed use component, the town likely would not have approved this increased density. There really was an understanding from folks. I understand the complexity of how these things are written or so forth, but at a very basic level, people had an understanding that in exchange for higher density, that it would advance the town's goals of having a more walkable, pedestrian friendly and so forth. So I just reiterate that message and ask the board members to keep that in mind when contemplating this, and I understand, very informal proposal before the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Dale. All right, so I think unless any board members just anything else, I think this is a good time to end this. And like I said, maybe 2 or 3 meetings out, if these guys, this team wants to come back, and we can further discuss it. Stephanie, your thoughts on that, or board members, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I would like to just, to Dale's comment, and I think that the applicant should be thinking about this. I understand that this isn't creating its own little mixed-use neighborhood, but it is along Robert Drive where there is access to, albeit smaller restaurants, grocery store, Target. So, and there is a sidewalk along Robert Drive. So I think, that would be one of the things that I think the board would want to consider too, are sidewalks within the community and then extending out onto Robert Drive.
Yeah, and I would also chime in. I am a frequent visitor to Robert Drive, living about a mile away, and it's amazing how traffic has increased and business is booming since the Starbucks has been added. I know it coincided with Avalon adding its 42 or 44 phase 2 units, but it's Target's been there for a decade, and it's amazing that now through the year that some random stop signs got added up, and it's kind of a mess in there right now. And as traffic continues, if and when a project does go on this property, I think some thought's going to have to be put into lining up the entrance with the entrance to the parking lot across the street, and we're going to have to look at some traffic management there, because it's really becoming difficult in there. And to Stephanie's point about pedestrian, it's a very confusing setup now, because there are 4-way stops all over the place, which nobody seems to know about or watches. They're the kind of random blinking lights, and
those I can explain those stop signs at another meeting and why they're there.
But as someone, I live it in real life, it's not working well up there.
Oh, no, it's
becoming very dangerous. So
actually, it was rather, in my opinion, arbitrary.
Yeah, I agree with you totally. And it was fine. Arbitrary with a little traffic's fine, but it's flabbergasting that one Starbucks it shows you marketing power, I guess.
Basically, again, I don't want to hijack the meeting, but it's something that may be able to be resolved. And again, I can go into detail.
Yeah, no, I think there's easy solutions, but I just wanted to bring that up while we're, it's a very preliminary point. But so why don't, let's call it there. And I would say, to the team, if you guys circle back and maybe get on our agenda, 2 or 3 meetings out, if you're so inclined, and we can, have another talk with the board. And I'd ask the board to think about what was up here, go back, review the bylaws, see your thoughts, look at the property, and maybe we can, we can have a little more concrete, no pun intended, discussion next time around.
Thank you for your time, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, board members.
I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody.
Good evening. Thank you.
All right, next up, meeting minutes. What do you got for me, Peter? You're muted.
Oh, I'm muted. I have motion to approve the minutes. I just don't have the date right in front of me.
March 6th.
From March 6th.
Kevin, second.
Any further discussion? No. Having none. All those in favor? Strange eye. Stetson?
Aye.
DeShane?
Aye.
Kedem?
Aye.
Baltzeric?
Aye.
All right. Chair's report. I'm getting very sick by the minute, so I have nothing to report.
Yeah, me too.
I think I'm about 103 degrees at this point. Stephanie, do you have anything?
I think, just a reminder, I think that at the next meeting, we should be starting the MBTA community zoning, and also, Suzanne, isn't it the first night of the hearing for the zoning articles for this town?
True. Yes, and it's in person.
Yes, unfortunately, not unless something happens before 48 hours before the meeting. It will be in person because the emergency order allowing towns to boards meet entirely remotely is set to grandfather or sunset on the 31st of the month. I know there's legislation, and someone indicated that maybe there's some legislation or something that will pass and extend it to September, but we have not heard.
If we're in person, will there be hors d'oeuvres?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can we still wear sweatpants?
That's the way I'm coming.
Well, we could see what we could do about that.
Individually wrapped, we don't get out much with COVID. All right.
I was going to offer to bake, but
who wants to
individually wrapping?
Mm-hmm.
Who wants to bring us home?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
I'm gonna give that to Amos. I think he was there.
Okay.
All those in favor? Strange eye. Stetson?
Aye.
DeShane?
Aye.
Baltzeric?
Aye.
And Kedem.
Aye.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. Stephanie?
Good night.
And Suzanne?
Good night.
Thank you. ECAT, thank you.